One day, a little boy named Chinedu was playing near the market when he saw something strange. He saw Mama Uche, the famous moimoi seller, holding her baby's tiny hand over the big pot of moimoi. Chinedu didn't understand what was happening, but he knew something didn't feel right. He ran home to tell his mother. Mama Uche was loved by everyone in the town. Her moimoi was the best, soft, tasty, and full of flavor. People from other towns came just to buy her food. Every morning, the market was filled with long lines, people chatting excitedly as they waited to get their hands on her delicious moimoi. She smiled and laughed with her customers, making everyone feel welcome. But Mama Uche had a secret. You see, people had always wondered why her moimoi was so different, so much better than everyone else's. Many tried to copy her recipe, but it never tasted the same. Some said it was magic. Some said she had a special way of cooking, but no one knew the truth until that day. Chinedu's mother didn't believe him at first. Don't be silly, my child. Mama Uche is a good woman. She couldn't do anything bad. But Chinedu insisted, Mama, I saw it with my eyes. She held her baby's hand over the pots. Chinedu's mother was worried. She went to talk to her friends, and soon word spread around the town. People started whispering about Mama Uche and what Chinedu had seen. Some believed it, while others said it was just a child's imagination. The next day, the market was still full of people waiting to buy moimoi from Mama Uche. But something was different. Some people in the line were quiet, glancing at her with suspicion. Mama Uche noticed, but she kept smiling and serving her food, pretending everything was normal. But the whispers didn't stop. One night, a group of elders decided to visit Mama Uche at her home. They wanted to know the truth. When they arrived, they found her cooking in her kitchen. The smell of fresh moimoi filled the air, making their mouths water, but they were there for answers. Mama Uche, one of the elders, said, there are rumors going around. People are saying that you use your baby's palm to cook your moimoi. Is it true? Mama Uche looked at them and smiled, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Come, sit, she said, waving them to the table. Let me tell you a story. She told them how she had learned to cook from her mother, who had learned from her mother before her. But there was one thing her mother had told her, something she had never shared with anyone. When I had my first child, Mama Uche said, my mother told me that a baby's touch could bring out the best flavor in food. She said it was a blessing, something special passed down through the generations. Mama Uche shook her head. I am not hurting my child. I don't press her hand into the food. I only hold it above the pot just for a moment. It is a tradition, something my family has done for years. My baby is safe and the food is blessed. The elders didn't know what to say. They had never heard of such a thing before, and it made them uncomfortable. But Mama Uche didn't seem to think she was doing anything wrong. She truly believed she was just following an old family custom. The next day, word spread through the town about what the elders had learned. Some people stopped buying Mama Uche's moimoi, saying they didn't want anything to do with her strange practice. But others didn't care. They loved her food too much to stop. Mama Uche kept selling her moimoi and she still had many loyal customers, but things were never quite the same. The whispers never fully went away, and some people couldn't look at her without thinking about the baby's hand over the pot. Chinedu's mother didn't buy moimoi from Mama Uche anymore. She said, "It's better to be safe than sorry." And Chinedu, well, he couldn't forget what he saw. Every time he passed Mama Uche's store, he remembered that strange day and wondered if the moimoi would taste the same without the baby's touch. And so, the story of Mama Uche and her mysterious cooking continued. Some people swearing by her food and others keeping their distance. But one thing was for sure, no one would ever look at her moimoi the same way again. He couldn't shake the image of the tiny baby's hand being held over the steaming pot. He didn't understand why it had to be that way. One afternoon, when the sun was shining brightly and the market was busy as always, Chinedu decided to visit his friend Ife. Ife's family loved Mama Uche's moimoi and bought it almost every day. Ife's house was just a short walk from Mama Uche, and Chinedu thought maybe he could talk to Ife about what he saw. Maybe Ife would understand. "Ife, do you still eat Mama Uche's moimoi?" Chinedu asked as they sat under a tree, playing with sticks in the dirt. "Of course," Ife replied with a grin. "Her moimoi is the best. My mom says no one else makes it as soft and tasty." Chinedu felt his stomach turn. "But didn't you think it's strange?" he asked, lowering his voice. "What I saw that day with the baby." Ife paused for a moment, thinking, "I don't know, Chinedu. My mom says it's just an old tradition. Maybe it's not bad." "But why does she have to use the baby?" Chinedu pressed. It didn't feel right. Ife shrugged. "I don't know. My parents don't seem to care. And they are grown-ups. They know more than we do." Chinedu sighed. He knew Ife wasn't really thinking about it the way he was. After all, Ife's family loved Mama Uche's food too much to worry about where the flavor came from. Days turned into weeks, and soon, a few brave people in the town started trying to make their own moimoi to compete with Mama Uche. They used all sorts of spices and fresh ingredients, but no one could make moimoi like hers. Every attempt seemed to fall flat, lacking the special flavor that kept people coming back. One day, a new woman arrived in town. Her name was Auntie Ngozi, and she said she had come to open her own food store. She wasn't just anyone. Auntie Ngozi was known for making mouth-watering jollof rice and puff-puff, but she also wanted to try making moimoi. When Auntie Ngozi set up her stall in the market, people were curious. They wanted to know if she could challenge Mama Uche's famous moimoi. At first, people were polite, buying a little from both stalls. But soon, it became clear that something was changing. Auntie Ngozi's food was good, very good. She didn't have any strange practice or secrets, just simple, delicious cooking. Little by little, her stall began attracting more customers. Mama Uche noticed at first. She wasn't worried. She had been the queen of the market for years, and she didn't think anyone could take her place. But as Auntie Ngozi's popularity grew, Mama Uche started to feel uneasy. She saw the lines at her store getting shorter, and the whispers about her baby's palm got louder. One evening, after the market had closed and the sun was setting, Mama Uche sat on her doorstep, staring into the distance. She held her baby in her arms, rocking gently. She didn't understand why things were changing so fast. Her family's tradition had always been enough, Why wasn't it working anymore? That night, as she sat in the quiet, she made a decision. If her food wasn't enough on its own, maybe it was time to stop using the baby's palm. Maybe it was time to cook like everyone else. The next morning, Mama Uche set up her stall as usual, but this time something was different. When it came time to cook, she didn't hold her baby's hand over the pot. She simply made the moimoi the way she always had, without the family tradition. People noticed the change right away. Some said the moimoi tasted the same, while others claimed it wasn't as good as before. But one thing was clear: more people were willing to come back now that the strange rumor has died down. Over time, Mama Uche's store became busy again. She didn't have as many customers as before, but she was happy. Her food was still good, and now she didn't have to rely on the old ways to sell it. She realized that maybe, just maybe, the real magic was in her own cooking, not in the baby's palm. Chinedu, for his part, felt a sense of relief. The market wasn't filled with whispers anymore, and he could walk past Mama Uche's stall without feeling uneasy. Things had finally gone back to normal, or as normal as they could be. And though people still remember the strange story of Mama Uche's moimoi and the baby's touch, it eventually became just another tale that parents told their children. But Chinedu would never forget what he had seen, and every time he tasted moimoi, he would remember the day he learned that sometimes the truth is stranger than any story you could imagine. As the week passed, life in the market settled into a new rhythm. Mama Uche and Auntie Ngozi both had their loyal customers, and the competition became them remained friendly. Though unspoken, people were happy to have more choices, and the market felt more vibrant than ever. But even though things seemed normal on the outside, Mama Uche couldn't help but feel a little empty inside. For years, she had relied on the family tradition to make her moimoi stand out. Now that she wasn't using the baby's palm anymore, it felt as though something was missing, not in the taste, but in her heart. One evening, as Mama Uche was closing up her stall, an old woman approached her. She was hunched over, wearing a faded wrapper with deep lines on her face that told of a long life. Mama Uche couldn't recognize her, but there was something familiar in the way the woman looked at her, as if she knew her. "Good evening, Mama Uche," the old woman greeted in a raspy voice. "Good evening, Mama," Mama Uche replied, bowing slightly out of respect. "How can I help you?" The old woman smiled softly. "I have been watching you, my dear. You come from a family of strong women, and your mama is loved by many. But I see that you carry a heavy burden now." Mama Uche was surprised. How could this old woman know what was weighing on her heart? "You know about the tradition, don't you?" Mama Uche asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman nodded. "I do. It is an old custom passed down from generation to generation. But sometimes traditions outgrow their purpose. What was once meant to bless has become a weight that holds you back." Mama Uche felt a lump in her throat. She had never spoken to anyone about how she really felt, but this stranger seemed to understand her struggle. "I don't want to hurt my child," Mama Uche said, her voice trembling. "But I was afraid that without the tradition, my mama would lose its magic. I didn't know who I was without it." The old woman stepped closer, resting a gentle hand on Mama Uche's shoulder. "You are more than the tradition, my dear. Your hands, your love for cooking, that is where the true magic lies. Your food was never about the baby's palm. It was about the care you put into each dish. Tears welled up in Mama Uche's eyes. She had spent so long believing that the tradition was what made her special. But in that moment, she realized the truth. It wasn't the baby's touch that made her moimoi taste so good. It was her own skill, her dedication, and love she poured into every meal she made. Thank you, Mama, she whispered, her voice full of gratitude. The old woman smiled again and turned to leave, disappearing into the night as mysteriously as she had come. From that day forward, Mama Uche felt a new sense of peace. She no longer worried about what people thought or whatever her moimoi would be as good without the tradition. She knew in her heart that she was enough, and her food was a reflection of that. As the weeks passed, something amazing happened. Mama Uche's moimoi became more popular than ever. People who had stopped coming to her store returned, saying her food tasted even better now. They couldn't explain why, but they saw there was something different, something special about the cooking. Even Auntie Ngozi, who had been her biggest competitor, came over one day and bought a plate of moimoi. It's truly delicious, Auntie Ngozi said with a grin. I don't know how you do it, but you've got a gift, Mama Uche. Mama Uche smiled warmly. Thank you, Auntie Ngozi, but it's not a gift. It's just love and hard work. And so the market once again became a place of joy and laughter, where people came not only to buy food, but to share stories and connect with one another. Mama Uche continued to make her moimoi now with a light heart, knowing that she didn't need any secret trick or tradition to succeed. Her food was good because she believed in herself, and that was all she needed. As for Chinedu, he still visited the market every now and then. Sometimes he would stand by Mama Uche's stall, watching her cook with calm and happy smile. He knew that the mystery of a baby's hand was no more. No more. But the lesson he learned from it will stay with him forever. Sometimes, what seems like magic is really just the power of belief. Believe in yourself and the things you love. And so, the story of Mama Uche's moimoi became a tale of strength, not because of a strange tradition, but because of the courage to let go and trust in one's own abilities. And from that day on, everyone knew that Mama Uche wasn't just the best moimoi seller in town. She was also the strongest.